All right, so we left off chapter 9 where the boys kind of got themselves into a little bit of trouble because they tried to trick the girls and then kind of backfired. Um, and then when they were heading back to their tent, they saw that mysterious light. So they're going to go check it out. Early the next morning, we were up, out, and on our way, heading north searching for the source of the mysterious light we had seen the night before. We figured we'd take care of the girls later. They could wait. Let 'em stew, said Pete. Of course, what he really meant was we hadn't thought of a decent plan yet. We worked our way along the shore on foot, passing a large shallow cove with a lot of frogs and turtles sitting around on rocks. Pete named it Bullfrog Lagoon. Then we cut inland and picked up a trail. We were almost to the tip of the island, somewhere close to where the light must have come from, when we heard the cry. It was a Tarzan yell, a terrific one, echoing through the forest deep and powerful. My spine tingled. It was positively the best Tarzan yell I've ever heard outside the movies. I mean it. It could have been the Lord of the Jungle himself. So if you don't know what a Tarzan yell is, it goes, oh, or something like that. Seconds after it died away, we heard a loud splash, and then nothing. Pete gave me a questioning look, but I just shrugged. The only explanation I could think of wasn't worth mentioning. That Tarzan had just dived into the water to rescue Jane and was wrestling with a crocodile. I motioned to Pete and we moved ahead. Slowly and cautiously now. The trees were gigantic in this part of the island, towering over us and casting cool, deep shadows. The forest floor was soft and springy, just right for good sneaking. After about 50 yards, the trail suddenly ended at the lake. Or rather, it ended at the head of a long, narrow inlet of the lake, with huge trees crowding right up to the shore on both sides. Pete and I hung back among the shadows, sort of sizing things up. There wasn't anyone in the water at the moment, but there definitely had been, and recently too, because hanging directly above the middle of the inlet was a long, thick rope still swaying. I looked up. The rope itself wasn't hanging from a tree branch because there weren't any branches that reached that far over the water. Instead, it was suspended from the middle of another rope that had been tied between the tops of two tall trees on opposite sides of the inlet. Something else caught my eye. On the right side of the inlet, about 20 feet up in one of the trees, was a wooden platform built out over the water. It was obviously the jump-off point for the long rope swing across the inlet. "Boy, neat," I said to Pete in a low voice. I leaned around the tree for a look at the other side of the inlet, thinking there might be another platform on the opposite the other one. And there was. But there was a lot more besides. I froze, staring. Pete must have seen it too, because I heard him gasp. "Wow," he whispered. There, high in the leafy branches of three enormous trees, was a treehouse, a fantastic treehouse, a treehouse with small rooms perched far out on strong branches and larger rooms with balconies built back in among the leaves, with long rope ladders hanging to the ground and stairways that spiraled around tree trunks and out onto the branches, ending in small platforms with sturdy railings and benches for sitting. There were storage barrels and big wooden flower pots and old-fashioned brass lanterns hanging from tree limbs. There were wood buckets on ropes attached to pulleys for drawing water up from the lake. And connecting the three trees were long suspension bridges with wood plank floors and rope railings. Suddenly, a voice behind us said, "I think I just about got the hang of it," and Pete and I jumped about a foot in the air. When we came down, we spun around and found ourselves face to face with a pleasant-looking middle-aged man with a friendly, intelligent face, thinning hair, and a little too much weight around the middle. He was wearing faded cutoffs and beat-up old tennis shoes that were coming apart at the toes. He was dripping wet. He gestured to the rope hanging over the inlet. "I almost made it that time," he said cheerfully. He gave us thumbs-up sign. "Looking good, looking good." I wasn't sure what to say. I began politely. "You were trying to swing from one platform to the other?" "That's right," he said. He did 4 or 5 jumping jacks. "I've been working at it for a week now, and this was the closest I've come. I think it was my Tarzan yell. It really got my adrenaline going." "It was a great yell," offered Pete. He meant it. Pete does a pretty good Tarzan yell himself. "Oh, do you really think so?" the man said the man looking pleased. Yeah, I really do, said Pete. It was first rate. I used to practice in the shower, said the man modestly, but I never knew it would come in handy. It almost did the trick, though. Did you see me? No, we missed it, I said. We were back there in the woods. Well, first I gave my yell. Then I gave this terrific push-off. I was really moving. When I got to the other side, I got both feet on the platform, but I was off balance and I couldn't quite let go of the rope and grab the hand pole. Before I knew it, I was swinging back the other way. He gave a little shrug. It was all over then, of course. I swung back and forth until I couldn't hold on any longer, and then I took the big plunge into the lake. Suddenly I had an idea. I don't suppose you were swinging on your rope last night, were you? I asked him, about 12:30, 1 o'clock. He looked surprised. I sure was. How'd you know? I told him about how Pete and me seen the mysterious light and how it had moved back and forth and disappeared. That was me, all right, he said. Me and my trusty lantern. I've been up on my moon viewing platform. Your what? I said. My moon viewing platform. He pointed to the top of the huge tree on the right side of the inlet, across from the treehouse. High up, much higher than the rope swing platform, almost at the very top of the tree, I could see a small, round platform. I use it to contemplate the moon. But since there wasn't any moon last night, I was up there with my star map, trying to learn constellations. I couldn't believe it. A moon viewing platform. I was beginning to like this guy better and better. It was a beautiful night, he went on. And then when I came down, I was feeling so good, I absolutely knew I could swing across the inlet. So I hooked up my lantern on my arm, grabbed the rope, and let her rip. He sighed, then shaking his head sadly, he leaned forward and peered into the deep water of the inlet. I survived, he said solemnly, but my lantern didn't. Poor thing went to a watery grave. And that was chapter 10.